Hello everybody, welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today we're doing a box office breakdown for this past weekend, which saw a Minecraft movie make $157 million at the domestic box office and over $300 million at the global box office, which destroys any and all projections that had been out there. Not only does it completely annihilate the so-called industry standards put forward by people, knuckleheads like Tony over here at Deadline, whose article that we have up as well, but it even goes up against the numbers that were put up by the likes of Box Office Pro, Box Office Theory, etc. Now, we obviously give a little bit more credit to Box Office Theory and them because, hey, at least they had the film somewhere in the $100 million range in their initial estimates, and they don't do running tallies and running estimates, right? That is exactly what people like Tony at Deadline do, is that they give you the initial estimates, which for them, they started off this movie at $60 to $70 million. After its opening Thursday, they then upped that, all right, to being around $100 million or so. And then after the Saturday, they said, oh, maybe $130 million. Well, it turns out $157 million is what the film is currently looking at. Obviously, those numbers will be adjusted on the Monday and Tuesday after when we get the actuals from the weekend, as these are currently just estimates here. But as always, Tony at Deadline and many of the other people in the mainstream media are always going to be leaving out some key pieces of information, but also, too, are going to be a bit disingenuous with some of the things in their titles. They love to put things in the titles that are going to get people to click on their articles and everything like that. And again, there's obviously people in the YouTube space that do so also. But one of the things that I really do think is something that needs to be called out here is when they are talking about toppling the Super Mario Brothers movie. Then, as you all know, I was not a big fan of the Super Mario Brothers movie myself. It was a film I didn't think was going to get to $1 billion. I was wrong. I had to eat pineapple on pizza. It was disgusting. But that was a film, though, that was, again, still a huge moneymaker. Did incredibly well. And Minecraft also is a film that is doing well, too. And also, not a big fan of it either. I think Super Mario Brothers movie is far superior to the Minecraft movie, but that's also not really saying all that much, right? So when you have this headline coming out, right, whether it be Tony or any of the other persons that you're going to see mentioned saying, oh, man, yeah, it beat the record set by Super Mario Brothers, they're going to leave out a very key piece of information. I'm not saying that they're doing that on purpose. I'm not saying that they're trying to be disingenuous in any way. But one of the things that always drives me crazy is whenever people try to compare apples to oranges type numbers. And so basically what Tony and others are going to be doing is saying, hey, 157 million, that is more than the 3-day, right, that Friday through Sunday number that was made by the Super Mario Brothers movie when that film first came out. The problem is that the Super Mario Brothers movie came out on a Wednesday. That's right. The Super Mario Brothers movie back in 2023 came out, I believe it was the week of Easter, and so it actually ended up getting an earlier release, which is why if you compare these two films, Minecraft, the Super Mario Brothers, hey, guess what? By the first Friday, Super Mario Brothers was already at $116 million because it had already been making money from those previous days. So when you compare 58 to 56, sure, on paper, definitely gives the edge over to the Super Mario Brothers movie. 60 to 58 rather gives it to the Minecraft film, and then 39 to 35 also seems to give the edge to the Minecraft film. But we can't just ignore those 2 other days worth of box office ticket sales that the Super Mario Brothers movie had. That's why this really isn't a fair comparison in either direction, right? Because for one, you take away the fact that these specific 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, were very, very good for Minecraft, but also the very, very good numbers from Super Mario Brothers, we cannot forget, led to it making, by the end of its first Sunday, over $200 million domestic. So, yes, again, they're going to put that number out there. I just want to explain what it is they're trying to say. Basically, they're saying, well, if you take the 56, 58, 35, add those together, and then the 58, 60, 39 of Minecraft, add those together, Minecraft has the edge. And that is indeed true. So that 3-day record is absolutely something that they can talk to. But again, overall, whenever records are mentioned, I always have to say, hey, never forget to adjust for inflation, but also try to compare apples to apples if at all possible, because ultimately, if it did not have that early release, we really don't know exactly how much money would have been made by the Super Mario Brothers movie, seeing that it got to over $200 million because of that early release. But again, I digress. That is a fight for another day, but it was something driving me a bit crazy, seeing a lot of people talking about how it broke the record, when in reality, that record, I think, again, if we're talking just about the Friday to Sunday, yeah, on paper, sure, it beat it, but by the end of the first Sunday, who had the higher number? It was the Super Mario Brothers movie. And again, this is from someone who's very critical of Super Mario Brothers movie. This is not me trying to shill for them in any way or even even defend their record. It's just I like to be honest about the numbers as they currently stand. And so speaking of that, let's just go into the actual numbers. So of course, Tony is going to keep on shilling, doing his own thing. So you keep going, and keep doing what you're going to do, Tony. But let's look at just how large and vast the discrepancy is here, right? This is really an anomaly in many, many ways, right? Not only did we have the incredibly tepid and weak release of films from the last several weeks, especially 3 weeks ago when we had the Disney Snow White film come out, that movie also continuing to drop off quite precipitously here. But never this year have we gotten a $150+ million domestic opening, and that's exactly what we have. $157 million being reported, $36,000 per screen. That is a massive number, no matter how you take it. Again, whether or not you're on one side of this versus the Super Mario Brothers movie as far as box office is concerned, doesn't really matter, because it ultimately still means the same thing. Minecraft is on pace to break even very quickly, probably even by the end of next weekend, and make a decent amount of profit to boot, and has made so much, right? When you get to $300 million in your global opening, that puts $1 billion on the table automatically, right? Because an average film, an average release, when you have a $300 million global opening, on average, those films end up making around $900 million or so by the end of their run. So when your starting off point after one weekend is $900 million, and there's a range there, meaning if you overperform, guess what? That puts you to $1 billion. If you underperform, guess what? That still leaves you around $700 million or so. Yeah, Minecraft's off to a great start. Is going to make money. Is going to definitely make some money back, some decent profits. The problem for Warner Brothers, though, because Warner Brothers, of course, has had several box office duds over the last several years, is that just like with the last time they had a massively successful movie, that, again, being Barbie, and there might have been something in between, but Barbie is the one that ultimately comes to mind, because this film also, when you compare it up against Barbie, is only off by about $10 million when you adjust for those numbers for inflation. So the fact that Barbie only has a $10 million advantage up against Minecraft over that same time frame, again, speaks to how strong the Minecraft movie is actually doing. But still, the fact is that when you are looking at those numbers and you are comparing those numbers, there is just no doubt in your mind of how well it is doing. But with Barbie, as I was saying right beforehand, before my brain broke for a second, that movie also had a problem for Warner Brothers, because guess what? They had to split any and all of the profits from that movie with Mattel and any of the other groups that they had deals with. Same issue is going to be happening here with the Minecraft movie. Now, again, I don't have the contracts in front of me to see exactly how the rights are going to be distributed or exactly what the financial dealings are, but Mojang Productions, right, the group behind who owns the rights to the game Minecraft, our producer on this movie, our production company on this movie. And so the question is going to be then, how do they divvy up those profits? And so, though it is clearly going to be profits for Warner Brothers, it's going into their pocket, is it going to be enough to offset the massive losses that they've had from some of their other films? Again, I'll have to put a chart together at some point just to compare those to see, hey, are they actually overall in the red or in the black when it comes to their theatrical releases? But hey, I just wanted to put that out there because, as you all know, I always try to be as honest about the numbers as we possibly can get. Fact is, though, Minecraft doing very well. That per theater ratio, by the way, is just showing you that there are tons of people in these theaters. Not only is it in over 4,200 screens, but those screens are also pretty darn full for the most part as well. Number 2 spot went to Working Man. So this film continuing to be in the top 3 spot here, only dropping 53%. That's a pretty good hold for a movie of its caliber, though we are maybe working or still waiting on some internationals here. The film costing maybe a bit too much for it to make its money outright back in the theaters, but still doing much better than anyone could have expected. And again, the film overall, I thought was rad according to the critic list scaling, and I thought was a lot of fun. But definitely not the best film out there by any means. But hey, box office wise, seems to be doing pretty well. The Chosen Last Supper Part 2 actually doing worse than Part 1 did. Part 1 did about $11 million last weekend. This film only doing about $6 million. And though Part 1 is still out, it made another $1.8 million. Again, starts to make me ask that question of why the difference? Why were there people who went opening weekend who did not go to see this one? Well, seems like the answer might be because, hey, everyone's instead going to see the Minecraft movie instead, and maybe some of those families were going to see that movie and decided to wait on the Last Supper Part 2 for the Chosen series, maybe for it to come out in the actual show itself. Going on from there, the number 4 spot, that's right, all the way down now to number 4 is Disney Snow White, a 58% drop. So it was already bad enough that the movie dropped 66% drop from week 1 to week 2. That's already a massive drop for a Disney animated movie, right? That's MCU levels types of a drop. And normally when it comes to the family films from Disney, down the line, they tend to do a lot better, right? Down the line, they tend to recuperate if they had a bad opening or bad second weekend number, and you maybe see drop-offs in the 30s range, in the 40s range. You're still seeing this happen for a lot of the other films that they've had, previously released, in fact. But the fact that it's actually dropping out that much just goes to show you how few people are wanting to see this film, how few people care about this film, and how much money the film ultimately is going to be losing. It's now only gotten to $77 million domestic, which means, yeah, good chance that this film doesn't get to $100 million domestic, doesn't get to $100 million international, and that means, yeah, the chances of this film making less than The Marvels is now actually and absolutely on the table. Now, as I've mentioned before, I do think that Disney has this willpower of, pushing out all the different deals and specials and all the things they can to try to entice people out to the theater. Not that it really works all that well, but they do have that capacity. I do think that they will this film over that finish line, quote, finish line, to at least make more than $200 million, to at least make more than The Marvels, because everyone knows how, again, that film was painted as one of the biggest box office catastrophes in the history of Disney. Well, it looks like, hey, Snow White came around and said, hold my beer, I'm going to go ahead and take care of this. Maybe hold my hard cider, I should say, because you know what? Hey, we got jokes here, just like Tony had Deadline. Number 5 spot went to The Woman in the Yard, $4.5 billion. So pretty atrocious numbers all around, though, but especially for Disney's Snow White. Now, as of right now, the numbers does not have the international total for a Minecraft movie, so all we have is that $157 million domestic. So still $300 million, roughly $300 million international, or rather global. The total domestic plus international is very, very impressive. This film did indeed get a pretty wide release in all of the major territories, with only one of which that I am, two of which I'm noting here has not gotten released yet. It has not gotten a Japan release yet. That is not until the 25th, so about 20 days from now. And then also South Korea. Now, where South Korea is not the biggest of markets, Japan has the potential to be. Whether or not it will, I am not exactly sure. I don't see how the film really, and I don't understand why the film really is appealing to as many as it is, because I just don't find it to be a very well-made or entertaining film. But hey, even if I hate a movie, I can't deny the numbers as they are, and this film is doing well. Will we see a massive week 2 drop-off, though, based off of some of the mixed reactions that we're seeing? Again, that remains to be seen. We'll find out more when the Monday and Tuesday numbers come out to start to see some of those drop-offs and what we could expect for next weekend. Working Man at $44.3 million, and again, that's as of right now. I'm starting to wonder if any of those internationals have not yet updated. Sometimes these things can get delayed, but as of right now, it's not the best result for it, but overall better than they could have expected. The Chosen Last Supper Part 2, $6.7 million for that Fathom event. Again, always impressive when the Fathom events are able to do such a thing. Disney Snow White, only $153 million. That's right, $153 million globally, well under $100 million both domestically and internationally. And again, bringing this comparison chart because not only did it show, right, the differences between Super Mario and the Minecraft movie, but it also puts this up against some other films, and most importantly, adjust numbers for inflation. All right, so in the first column, you have Disney Snow White. Second, you have The Marvels. And then in the third, you have Dumbo. Those are going to be the most relevant for our discussion about how bad Snow White is currently doing. Okay, so just as a reminder, Dumbo ended up getting all the way up to $436 million when you adjust for inflation. The Marvels, $206 million when you adjust, even just from a couple of years ago. At $153 million, this film, Disney Snow White, is tracking behind those films by quite a bit. At the same point of release, right now, Disney Snow White is at $77 million. Now, also remember, at one point it seemed like, hey, the numbers between The Marvels and Snow White are going to be getting, close, with one overtaking the other pretty easily. But here's the problem. Right now, The Marvels is beating it. So if you compare the third Sunday numbers, The Marvels was at $79 million, whereas currently Snow White's at $77 million. For Dumbo, which again did a bit better than these other two films, it was already at $111 million at the same point of release. So the fact that it's losing to both of those, and the fact that it's tracking behind the domestic, and it's even losing in the daily battles between those two movies. Let's actually go ahead and remove these larger ones from the chart, because I think it is weighting things quite a bit, because these are much more successful films. Ultimately, let's see how it ends up doing, right? So The Marvels clearly had a better opening day, right? That opening Friday number here. And then Dumbo ended up doing better too, so let's remove that one. So let's just see the battle between, we love to do things live here on OMB Reviews, the battle between Disney Snow White and Disney's Marvels. So as you can see in the daily numbers, it looked like Disney Snow White was going to catch up, right? It did not have the best opening weekend, 47 million for Marvels versus 42 million for Disney Snow White. It was ending up making more in the individual days, and it looked like it was about to catch up, right? By the second Monday, look what happened, right? 68 million versus $68 million. The problem, though, is this. By the second Tuesday, it starts to shift around, okay? You start to see, okay, the Marvels down the line ended up beating the second Sunday, second Tuesday, second Wednesday, second Thursday, even the second Friday, and the second Thursday numbers, too. Man, keep this in mind. Snow White only made $688,000, under $1 million. The fact that it's already been out for a few weeks and it's already making under $1 million a day, that is always a bad sign, especially for a kids movie like that. But again, still holding the edge. Beat out the Friday. Saturday is when it got the edge, 2.7 and 1.8 to their 2.5 to 1.4 respectively. But we could probably expect then, going into next week, guess what? You're probably going to see those numbers continue to lose to the Marvels down the line. And so even though it's going to be a pretty close battle, yeah, if you're looking at that number, that final domestic for the Marvels, if you are going toe-to-toe with that film, you're looking at maybe another $10 million being added on. So that's why there's a very good chance that it makes as much as the Marvels domestically, maybe even a little bit less, potentially a little bit more too. But also comparing those internationals, it's like not even close. So yes, could this film actually end up being a worse performer than the Marvels? That's absolutely on the table. And Disney has no one else but themselves to blame for it because, hey, they dug their own grave with that one. Let's go over to the charts because we love charts here on OMB Reviews. So to give you an idea, right, with the $301 million being reported for the Minecraft global opening, right now, based off of the $150 million production budget, that means that the film is only looking at around $81 million worth of losses as of right now, right? With $150 million, you have to make about $450 million to break even in today's market, right? Somewhere between $375 and $450. That's when you account for things like marketing, right? Some people still struggle to figure out exactly how is it that you're spending X amount, but then your break even seems to be a lot more. Well, remember, you have to spend marketing. Production budget does not account for marketing. Also, you don't get 100% of your box office receipts either. You split that with theaters, and depending on where you are country-wise, that's going to impact how much money you get as a studio. So the fact is that after all of that said and done, you have to make between $375 and $450 to make up for the budget and the marketing cost after all of those deals are taken in. This is just looking at the box office, right? This is not looking at any other alternative revenue streams either. But hey, Minecraft movie right now in a very good position. If it's starting off at $300 million, we expect it to maybe be able to get upwards of up to $450, $500-ish million by next weekend. And if we're getting to that territory, again, $1 billion absolutely becomes even further to be on the table. Now, as I mentioned before, some of these numbers have not fully updated here. So a Working Man at $44 million as of right now, $38 million in the red. We can make some projections though, because we have those week 2 numbers. So between, as of this, again, as of today, as of this right now recording, 44.3 million with the 2 weeks, which means we can project it to make globally between 63 and 88 million by the end of its run, based off of an $80 million budget. That means losses between 6 and 21 million. So could it potentially, overperform, do a little bit better, and actually enter into the black territory? Absolutely could, but we're still looking at it likely losing just a little money, if even, and that's going to be something easily that it could make up in VOD sales, right? With VOD sales likely to kind of push it over the edge, but still theatrically, it would not be a success according to these charts here. Death of a Unicorn is looking in a similar situation, but doing a bit worse, right? As the second weekend, based on the numbers reported, $10.7 million. Let's go ahead and see if we can update that just to make sure that those are the most accurate. At $10.7 million, the numbers.com is currently reporting. So that means that we are projecting it to make anywhere between $15 and $21 million by the end of its run, which would be a loss between 9 and 13. So similar situation as Working Man, where it would be looking at maybe small losses, but still enough to be able to probably make back on VOD, Blu-ray 4K sales, and other ancillary streams. Like when they're selling off the rights for streaming, they'll make some money off of that too, and any other deals that they have behind the scenes also. So again, probably looking good for them, but ultimately you always want to have your film be in the black in the theaters before moving there, because otherwise it leaves a question mark ultimately. But with, again, Disney Snow White, $270 million was the production budget for that film. And again, that is probably on the lower end of things, right? There are many who project it probably cost upwards of $300, if not $350 million or so. So at even 270, which is the one number that most of the media seems to be running with, if you even just take that metric, guess what? You're currently at $326 million in the red. So you're looking at a guaranteed loss of $300 million and potentially, if the budget's higher, and we'll probably find that out, a potential loss of $350 plus million, which would mean this is not only going to be the biggest box office flop likely of this year, but that it could be, Snow White, the biggest box office flop of the last several years. So kudos to Snow White, kudos to Disney, kudos to Rachel Zegler as well for just burying her film in the dirt. Couldn't happen to a nicer company. A couple other updates. Captain America Brave New World, $411 million, as I mentioned before, probably looking at an end result of around $425 or so at a max rate. It's having a pretty average run, actually, at this point, compared to its opening weekend. And let's see, anything else that people might have interest in. Pretty much it. But Minecraft, boy, that's the story right now. It's taken off. It's doing amazing. And again, a lot of the students, right, that I teach, the 16 to 17-year-olds, like they all were, hey, are you going to see this movie? Are you going to see this movie? We're all going to see it. It seems like that is definitely going to be a film that's continuing to drive those out. Now, will it be able to bring people back for second viewings, third viewings? I don't think it's that good. I don't think it has that capacity to it. I don't even think it's so bad it's funny. Clearly, there's some people, though, who are entertained by this. I think especially the younger, little itty-bitty kids. That's obviously big because that drives out a lot of ticket sales, with the moms and the dads being dragged to the theater to have to see the film once, maybe even twice, even though, honestly, the Minecraft portion of the story really becomes the backdrop and really becomes almost a secondary character in its own movie. Minecraft is almost used as a prop in many ways, which is why I personally hated it, in addition to it just not being funny. But hey, money is what money is, and it is doing very well. So what are y'all's thoughts? Have you seen the Minecraft movie? Did you like it? And also, how much money do you think it's going to make? Again, $1 billion is on the table for this film, okay? Now, what do I think is going to happen? I would not be surprised to see it cap out between $700 and $850 million. I have to wait to see, is this film going to actually hold well into week 2? I personally can't see that as happening. I think that the massive hype surrounding it, especially online with the opening weekend, is going to be similar to the Marvel effect, and so you're going to have a massive drop-off next weekend. The question is, though, do we see that massive drop-off? And if it is, how massive a drop is it actually? We'll make some official projections next weekend, but regardless of whether it gets to $1 billion, doesn't matter. Because it only costs $150 million, it means this film right now is tracking to easily make its money back and easily make a pretty good amount of profit as well. So anyway, let me know your thoughts about that and anything else I mentioned in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button. Also, make sure you smash the rumble button as well. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest every day. A blessed Sunday. Today is Passion Sunday, the 5th Sunday of Lent. We are so very close to the end of this Lenten season. So again, a blessed Passion Sunday, and just a week away from Holy Week beginning with Palm Sunday. So have a great final rest of your Lent. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge special shout out to all of my Chosen of Valhalla members, starting off first with my people on Patreon, Father Luca Illick and Miss Martin Muses. Check out her YouTube channel by the same name, Miss Martin Muses. Also to my Subscribe Star people, Matt317. Check out his Twitch channel by the same name, Matt317. And lastly to my YouTube member, Mr. Roy. Shout out to you, good sir. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, check out the top link in the video description below where you get access to that. Also, you get access to a plethora of other things. You get your name listed at the end of every live stream and video, like you saw in those names that came up before this video started. And also access to a giveaways channel that I host over on the Discord server where I give away 4Ks, Steelbooks, Blu-rays, all kinds of stuff. So check that out if you're interested in that. Also, I have an exclusive podcast that I hold at least once a month, and it's always a good good time, and you get extra bonus content with that also. So if any of that sounds interesting, again, check out that top link in the video description below. You guys are all amazing, and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.